Who will be some of the breakout college basketball and international prospects this season? Today, we'll give our preseason picks before the 2024-2025 college basketball season.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are Locked On Women's Basketball. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. If you haven't heard already from one of our weekday shows, Locked On Women's Basketball now has a daily newsletter, a one-stop shop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up today for free at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Women's Basketball newsletter. My name's Hunter Cruse. I'm your Saturday host covering the WNBA draft and prospect scouting. Today I'm joined by my esteemed co-host, Emily Adler. Emily covers the draft with a focus on player development in the game, within the game. Today we're talking about some of our breakout candidates for college basketball. Last year we had Kiki Iriafen and Flau'jae Johnson. Is there a Flau'jae or Kiki Iriafen this season? I kind of doubt it based on what we've seen.
Based on the numbers, the answer is probably. Do we know who it's going to be? Absolutely not.
Maybe not to that degree. We're talking about like two of the five best prospects in college basketball.
I mean, they both went from like soft threes to like sevens, sixes.
I was a little bit higher on Flau'jae than you, but I think like Flau'jae was like such more of like a project compared to some of these other names in her class. To kick it off, who is your first name that you want to bring as a breakout candidate for this season?
So the way I've done this is I basically accidentally had one player from each class, so I'm just going to go down the line that way. I'm going to start off with the graduating class and senior Isaiah James from NC State, combo guard, 5'9", with a +2 wingspan differential. We had her ranked. I'm not going to remember this number off the top of my head, but she was in the mid-20s on our
mid-20s
draft board. Yeah, she's one of these players. I think the obvious sell is she is right now a jack of all trades, master of none. She has some really standout abilities when it comes to sort of mid-air finishing, when it comes to, I think, just steady internal tempo on both ends. But she, I think, is one of those players that we put in at the tail end of the board. We usually have close to 10 of these players maybe who were looking for one or two things to click that hadn't necessarily clicked in the past. And if these things click, then we're like, oh, hey, this is like a sudden 45 for us. And if they don't, they kind of drop off the board by the end. I think she's got a really high baseline. And I think, again, she's someone who has taken really strong strides forward every year. And I think she's someone who, we've seen really strong flashes, especially in the NCAA tournament last year. And basically, if there's anyone from the class this year that I think was suddenly going to have some things click and really jump onto people's radars in a way that she currently isn't, I'm looking at Isaiah James.
Isaiah James, over her last 10 games of the season last year, 18.8 points, 3 assists, 4.6 rebounds, 36% from 3, 83% from the line, 4 attempts per game, also was 47% from 2, 9 attempts.
As the second best player on a Final Four team.
If she does that again over a full season sample size, we'll see. That gets scary.
Yeah, if she puts up 18, 4.5, and 3 as a wing on the second best, as a wing who is the second best player on a top 4 team in the country, yeah. We'll consider it. I mean, she's also she was hitting pull-up threes against South Carolina and Texas. Like, this is someone who myself and the next ACC reporter, Mitchell Northam, or I guess former ACC reporter Mitchell Northam, this is someone who we had sort of kept our eyes on since not this past season, which was her junior season, but her sophomore season ACC tournament, and especially down the stretch run of conference play. Yeah, she's someone who, NC State always brings in a lot of like bottom of the top 100 depth. Basically, they'll hit on like 1 or 2 of them every other year, and suddenly you've got a team that has a lot of depth just over time. This is one of Westmore's specialties. Isaiah, every time, I'm so tired. Isaiah James is one of those players who really clicks in that way. She had some really standout athletic skills, like I said. And yeah, she's just super flashy, but super steady.
I remember it was that season when she was a sophomore. I was watching one game and I was like, I think I tweeted it out. I was like, I can't wait for it to be Sanaya Rivers and Isaiah James's team. That's going to be so fun. Kind of right there.
Yeah, you somehow called it based on like 30 seconds of watching a pretty nondescript game of hers. That
it was January, just a random January game. Super fun. But
yeah,
my first player to talk about here is Yarden Garzon.
Yes.
Playing for Indiana. This year, she will be, would you say, the number one option on this team? I don't.
Oh, God, no. I hope not. Chloe Moore McNeil's still there. Sydney Parrish is still there.
But as far as, like, who's going to lead the team in scoring?
She's not going to be. I mean, so Chloe Moore McNeil is going to be the quote unquote the number one option, but she's going to be the distributor. Like Yarden Garzon, I think is probably the top play finisher. She's probably going to be number 2 in pick and roll reps unless I'm missing some 2 guard, right?
I know they have a top international that's like 20 years old as like a freshman because she was like kind of older, but for Garzon,
that's what we always like to hear when it comes to prospects. This player is old. For her age,
older for a freshman, but hey, she's gonna produce for Indiana.
To be fair, I was a 20-year-old freshman, so I'm not here to judge.
For Garzon, last season, 44% on catch and shoot threes, was like 39% on
so good.
39% on mid-range pull-up jumpers, half court finishing, 55%, 60 attempts. So like, there's room for this to like just continue improving. We're talking about there's not many of these players that can like play on the wing, can really shoot it from multiple levels, not even just spot up threes. So I think we're talking about where her game can expand. If she took another leap as like a pull-up scorer from 3, that's like what I'm looking for to see if that kind of happens.
If she takes a leap as a pull-up scorer from 3, I think we're talking about almost a completely different kind of player here. Like that is dangerous. If we're talking about someone who's 6'3" and like a legitimate. For someone who I think we want playing the 4,
right?
If she's hitting pull-up threes, I mean that is someone who can drive, who can finish, who can shoot, who can draw fouls, who can play like really solid backline help defense. If you're giving me pull-up threes, that's insane.
If we're talking about her more as like what a 4 right now, 4 soft 5, soft 4.5, 45.
What do we put on the board?
We're around that.
We're highly prepared for every podcast. I would like to be clear. We have her as a 45.
45, yeah.
Which I think part of that was because I'm trying to make sure that I had this correct from the other one.
Yeah,
we had her, right. Which the year before we had her as. No, this is the preseason board. I'm doing excellently here. Yeah, so that was the same grade we gave her after her freshman year, and I think that was sort of due to. So first of all, I mean, like. That would be good if it's just the same grade. That means we're probably hitting it pretty well. But I think in her specifically, and specifically her case, some things got better. I was really impressed with the on-ball reps. It really solidified what I saw from the defensive scout, but it also, I think it kind of solidified some concerns we had about the upside given her like very pedestrian average athleticism for a college player. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great skill set, and if she was like a 10% better athlete, you're talking about like a Big Ten Player of the Year candidate. So I think it's
like the gap between her and Sivka athletically, I would say, right?
That's not a terrible comp.
But before we get to our next ad break, who's your second player?
Oh, we're doing that now. Sticking with the same class, I have Avanita former backup, now starting point guard, Yana Martin.
Yana Martin. This is the rare situation, I said it to you before recording, where you have more knowledge on an international prospect going into like a scout than I do.
This is exactly what happens when like I have plans on like a Wednesday and a Friday in a week, and my friends cancel on me. Like during the workday, it's like, all right, I guess I'm going home and watching some Perfumous Avanita tonight.
Martine did really pop whenever I was watching. Was that U19s last summer? She was like I think she was MVP. I think it was U19s because it was the championship whenever they put Hannah Hidalgo.
Wait, are you talking about the 2024 summer, 2023?
Well, it was last summer. Last summer they played.
You're not answering my question.
2023 summer.
Okay, so when she was playing with Alma Fam.
Yeah, it was with Awa, and they played against the championship game against like the team had a bunch of really helpful players.
Yeah, they played
Chloe
against.
Kitts on the
Did
team.
they play? They played Carla Lite in that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, in
Not
one
in
of
the
the
final, but in the
games.
tournament.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the
Okay.
games. Yeah. So
That was it was whatever Lacan played in minus a year. Like one of them was U19, one of them was U20, right?
yeah,
Or was it U18,
yeah,
U19?
yeah. Martin is playing for a EuroLeague team as the
Yes,
starting,
a
as the
very
starting,
good.
as the
Sorry.
starting, as the starting point guard. This is her first time playing in like a first division team. Like she's coming
Mhm.
from playing in the second division in Spain like 6 months ago,
Oh, I
which
thought
is
you were gonna like
nuts.
read stats or something. Sorry. I thought there was like a colon coming after that, and then the stats.
She
Anyway,
averages like
this
9.4 3
she's averaging like nine
solid
four.
numbers.
She's
Yeah,
averaging like 9.44 and like a steal with something like a 2-to-1 turnover ratio or something.
which is
Again,
insane in the
I should specify
EuroLeague.
not just in EuroLeague, at like age 18 in like the second highest level of any of like any national league. So like France is probably number one, we'd say, right? In terms of difficulty.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then number two is Spain. We're not necessarily talking like the like top end talent, like Familia Schio and Fenerbahce are still like probably the two best teams in Europe, flat out. But
Mhm.
like the baseline in Turkey and Hungary and Italy is just not nearly as high as Spain and France. So like this is really freaking good production, and I mean it's really impressive. And I would love to tell you more about it after this ad break.
Yeah, after the ad break, we'll continue talking about
I'm
Iana
so smooth.
Martin, and then we'll get into some more prospects that we see as breakout candidates. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy. So get your lineups to stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. Think Justin Jefferson will get more than 83.5 yards next week. Will Christian McCaffrey run for more than 75.5 yards? Cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. To continue off with segment 2, Iana Martin, 2026 draft prospect, 5'8", 5'9"-ish guard.
Mm.
What have you seen her from like just like an on tape standpoint with what you've seen from her so far this season?
Yeah, so she was someone coming into we're going back to U19s, 2023. She was someone coming in. I don't know if you were necessarily aware of Awa Fam before that tournament, but I think in that tournament it took us like one game to be like texting each other like, dude, you gotta watch this chick, dude. And
That's true.
Awa Fam immediately was like our most exciting prospect in like any class outside of like the obvious lottery picks from last year and then Paige this coming year. But I forgot who it was. You were talking to someone I think familiar with the Spanish league who was also like, hey, look out for Iana Martin. And
Yeah, I've heard she's like the best Spanish young guard, like basically ever. Like it's been like decades since they've had like someone this good at that age.
and they've had obviously Spain has very solid guard prospects. I can't remember the one who like keeps putting up like 15, 20 points against the US every time they play in like the Olympics. It's also someone I just watched Fam go against, Angela Salvadores. There's just a lot of really solid guards in that league that get all EuroLeague honors year in year out. But Iana Martin, man, like physically, her burst, her lateral quickness is really good for that age, and you see it pop against other players. Like she was, who was she going against? I think it was Kiki Jefferson, the like last week, and she just absolutely destroys her off the dribble. Her defense is terrible, is the best way I can put it. She just has really bad decision making and instincts at the level that's fixable. I don't know if coaches really are going to teach that at this point, but like again, we're talking about like a 5'9" point guard, not expecting that. But the offense, her floor game, again, for her age, is so good. Her internal metronome and her sense of tempo control is crazy. She doesn't make the flashiest passes you'll see out of any guard prospect over there. She's not used to Yosite in that sense, but like she has the ability and she flashes like some crazy passes now and then, and you can see where it goes. Everything is so solid in her game. She's extremely well-rounded as it is, but she also flashes like a lot of potential. And again, given her age, given her athletic skill set, she flashes some real plus finishing. She flashes some really solid decel. There might be better shooting in there, given I think she's pretty stable on those pull-up mid-range shots. There's a lot of direction she can go in, but she already just has such a high-level baseline that we're talking about someone who, just like, there are some pieces we want to see get better, but there are so many ways to go in that are already so solid.
Yeah, super excited about her. My second player is KK Arnold at UConn.
No, that was my third player.
For KK, I think I don't know where you're at on the jumper, but I kind of buy the mechanics. Like, they don't look bad.
The real question is, how many times did she shoot? Am I comfortable enough evaluating the jumper? No, she literally did not. Honestly, she didn't shoot often enough for me to have any notes on the jumper.
She took 85 threes, catch and shoot threes, only 6 off the dribble.
Yeah.
As far as what synergy counts as contested,
and most of them were wide open too.
Yeah. The guarded jumpers that synergy classifies that was 4 of 23. Unguarded wide open was 39% though. So
I mean, that's what you want. Like, that's
what you want. Yeah.
Yeah. She's it's so hard given the I mean, you have so many contexts you have to like flatten with UConn, right? So we have someone who's playing next to Paige Becker. So Paige is like the point guard who is even a playmaker off of the ball. Mm-hmm. So like KK Arnold technically ran point on a lot of sets, but like, would we call her a point guard last year? Either as a combo. What will she look like in 2 seasons when Paige is gone as a primary ball handler? Or is this like a Kristen Williams situation where we're asking what she looks like as a primary ball handler? It turns out she's just not, which is 4 fine. Yeah, no, which is fine. Kristen Williams was a very good 2-guard next to Paige Beckers, and I still think without the ACL tear, she would have been a really interesting like 9th player in the league. But like KK Arnold is such a good point of attack defender that like hit the open threes and we're talking money. Like, I think that she has a really, really good feel for getting to the rim. She's got good playmaking vision. It's just how you round it out.
I have one thought that I just thought of with KK.
It's more thoughts than I have.
Is she sort of like JJ Quinterly? If you look at their profiles from their freshman season, like just in terms of like the production, it's basically like the exact same production, like shooting, finishing, free throw shooting, steals. I
understand what you're getting at.
As far as being these like point guard size, but they're like more of a combo, and you have questions about the playmaking at like a 1, but like the driving is good, the point of that defense is good.
So for me, the difference is like, so we know that JJ Quinterly is just a really good off-ball scorer. We know how good she is at the second side pick and roll. We know that she's a very good spot-up shooter.
But I'm saying so like 2 years ago, is like she like on the track of what JJ was like early in her college career. That's kind of like what I'm saying, not now.
I think that's a good question. My response would basically just be like, I don't think we've been at this enough to say one way or the other whether a freshman who looks like that. Right. No. I'm saying that like asking this question 3 years with someone in the class of 2030 isn't a real class. But like, it's not
it's bad that I have that on my document.
Yeah. Hunter, we're not going to be alive in 2030. Like, we don't need to worry about this.
Shout out Jersey Robinson. Shout out Kate Harper.
That's right. Shout out, who's that like 5'6" guard who UConn just offered? That's like, it's like she was like 3 inches taller, she'd be Paige again. You just watched her.
Kalina?
Yeah.
Kalina Smith?
Kalina Smith. Wait, isn't she?
She's 2031.
What?
2031 club. That's when she'll be draft eligible.
I can't wait that long. Doing 3 years for her to get to college? That's not okay. Anyway, I understand what you're getting at. I mean, that's certainly possible. I think generally we tend to see from players flashes of the fluidity that JJ Quinterly has. These for me aren't. We talked about this in the very stupid AI episode, like 10 months ago.
Our listeners love that episode.
We have the best listeners in the world, and they just love all of our content, especially when I'm just doing my academia speak. But we talked about this in that episode. There are things that don't really acquire over time, and things that aren't coachable and like learnable as neuroplastic skills.
Oh, you're saying too many big words.
Is my academia background coming through again? And I think in that context, like the fluidity and the sort of live ball creativity, I think those are things that if you don't see flashes, then it's just not there. It'll get better, but I think that gets better as a function of getting to the game more and not actually having that skill acquired. We'll see. I mean, I'm really excited about her regardless, but we'll see.
So let's get to our final ad break, and then we'll talk about each of our final prospects that we see as breakout candidates this season. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, so when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bet. You get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com to get started when you place your first $5 bet. All right, segment 3. Do you have your third breakout candidate?
Am I allowed to say Kimora Johnson? Is that against the rules?
We can talk Kimora.
Is that okay?
Kimora. Yeah,
okay.
We can talk about Kimora.
Okay, so wait, hold on. Who's your player?
My player is Zoe Brooks.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
It's kind of like the same kind of players I'm talking about with Zoe Brooks than with Kiki Arnold.
Yeah, I'll go with Kimora Johnson, but since that's kind of a cop-out, since she's like too good to actually have qualified for this list, my like backup pick is Hannah Stuelke.
Yeah, you could consider you talk about her as a breakout candidate as like, could she be like a sneaky All-American this year, like sneaky All-American caliber player? It's more of that type of leap.
Exactly. I had her. I think I would have to pull up the documents. This would take
very high.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have her currently like 7th in the 27 class, but that's also with a grade of a 5, and like having a 5 and being number 7 in a class is actually insane.
Yeah.
Like both the high end level and the depth in that class should frankly just like. I don't know how that's allowed to exist. This is, by the way, just me stalling to bring up my ACC ballot. Oh, it's my old computer. Screw it. Anyway, I had Kimora Johnson coming into this season. I ranked her on my preseason All-ACC ballot. I put her. No, this was last postseason. Sorry, yeah, last season I ranked her 10th in the conference. She was my last first team All-ACC vote. She ended up making, I believe, second team All-ACC. This year she is a preseason All-ACC player, which means she's voted top 10. So I think it's pretty safe to say that she's not going to break out among ACC beats and like people who watch the ACC, because Kimora Johnson. She was named one of the 10 best players in what I would argue is probably the best power conference this year. She's definitely not someone that like people at large know, even in the same way as like who's the like -3 wingspan shooter on UConn?
-3 wingspan shooter.
Yeah, white girl, rising sophomore.
I know you're talking about.
Oh, Ashlyn Shade.
Ashlyn Shade.
Ashlyn Shade is definitely a more known name than Kimora Johnson, but Kimora Johnson, I mean, I don't need to tell you about her. We both ranked her as a 5, but like I think she is someone who very easily could burst into like national conversations about like underappreciated players and about like stars on middling teams.
Yeah, she's like a 5-star freshman. She was a 5-star freshman that went to UVA.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna take a minute for that player to like kind of get the notoriety.
Yeah, and I mean, part of it was just like I think there are some aspects of in which like she stood out in ways that didn't necessarily completely translate onto the box score page. I think the quality of her playmaking is absolutely insane. I think her point of attack defense for the kind of offensive player that she is really standout. What other notes on her? Yeah, and I mean, like I think based on her track record, we both looked at this. We expect her shooting to get better too from 3. So that's a selling point on Kamar Johnson, underappreciated star.
And then, like I mentioned with Zoe Brooks, I think Zoe's in sort of like the way that you would say with KK is like more off-ball guards, super athletic, fun drivers. Can she shoot? Is like kind of the question with Zoe Brooks. Can she get more confident shooting? Last season, she was like super good on pull-up twos, but pull-up threes and catch-and-shoot threes was awful. 19% on catch-and-shoot threes, 16% on pull-up
Oh, God.
threes.
Really?
But like,
that bad?
the finishing numbers were nuts for, well, at least a bunch of them were in transition, but like,
She's a really good finisher. Yeah.
good finisher, good pull-up shooter, very solid defender, I would say. Kind of just like, can the shooting come together? And we're talking about like a real prospect, I would say.
Yeah, I'm not sure the defense necessarily stood out to me in the same way that it did to you. For me, there were like flashes. Like,
Yeah.
I thought for a guard, we're looking at like solid help ability, which given she's got like a +2.5, +3 wingspan, you love to see it. I thought, if she's just a slasher, which is what she was effectively a great slasher last year in terms of production, not in terms of like profile. Took a lot of threes, like you said, a lot of pull-up jumpers that didn't necessarily hit from super long range. But if you basically take that out of her game, then I think right now, really good slasher. And so that's a really good foundation to build on. She obviously came in with a super high rapport coming into God, I'm so tired. It's called college. She's obviously a really good athlete, and so that can fit in really well. I just want to see a little bit more flashes. She's obviously going to step into a little bit of a higher role this season, given the fact that NC State has lost Mimi Collins and River Baldwin, so they're probably going to be asking Snia Rivers to shift down a position, which is going to open up some backcourt minutes. We'll see what she does there. I mean, at the very least, she's an exciting player. I just need to see her play more to put a full grade on her, because I basically just have an incomplete grade on her.
A couple more names that I did not mention already. Tessa Johnson is someone that could be that type of player. Jaden Donovan at Duke possibly could be that type of player. 2026 class.
Not that type of player, but a different good type of player.
A good type of player.
She probably can't be a slasher.
Tana Mayer at Duke, hypothetically. We'll see if that happens.
Go to.
My dream pick would be Rusina Gusaneta at Georgia Tech. As
you just want to be able to watch and cover someone good.
She's just has all the shot creation, but can she do anything else at an average level?
She's like a roll 8 in swag and a roll 3 in playmaking. Roll 2 defender.
Man, the shot creation
shot creation's really good. It just needs to hit a little bit more.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing with her.
The other stuff.
But fun player.
Yeah. Other names for me. You mentioned Jaden Donovan. Both of the remaining Baylor bigs. That's Bella Fauntleroy and Dariana Little-Page Bugs.
I'm surprised you didn't mention Ziona Walker at Kansas State.
Ziona Walker at Kansas State is just can you do something on offense for me?
Hey, Breakout. It could happen.
Well,
it's fun defensively.
Oh my God, you're underselling it. I thought you should have been I thought you should have been all Big 12 defensive team. She's an absolutely insane defender.
It's more valuable to have defenders that just don't do anything, but they get blocks. So,
I mean, yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I talked about Nyla Harris last year on the pod, so she's still on that list. Hannah Stuelke, real quick on Hannah Stuelke, it's probably tough to put her on here because most people are like, wow, Hannah Stuelke. Nah, as a prospect goes, we've seen Iowa bigs before, but she has kind of insane movement skills in the open court, and she's kind of an insane passer for her height / position. She has really good feel in space. This could hit.
Didn't we hear rumblings that her wingspan was
That's not, don't put that in the pod. That was some amateur hour stuff. Do not attribute that to our valued and trusted sources. She does not count as one of those sources.
Too bad that wingspan measurement was not true, because that would actually have been insane. That would have been nuts.
It would have been. Give me a +11 wingspan on Hannah Stuelke. Don't get out of here. +11.
Plus 11 wingspan doesn't even
No
seem
one
weird.
has been plus 11 ever. Like, literally no one has ever
Taylor
been plus
Horton
11.
Tucker is like plus 10.
Yeah, and men tend to have much longer like wingspan
And that's like all he
differentials.
can do.
All he can do is literally look good on paper. If you want to really scrape the bottom of the barrel here, and just be like a super hipster, Anna Aussie, Oklahoma State, long been a fan of hers. Zina Walker would fall into this category for me. At K-State, point of attack defender. Paris Clark at UVA, don't sleep on her. She's a very interesting wing. And Miracle Shepherd at LSU by way of Mississippi State. She should be their starting point guard.
She's also a can she shoot candidate.
The answer's probably not. Can she drive? Can she defend? Yes.
I'm surprised you didn't mention Grace Van Sluten, or did you already mention her?
I feel like that's a little, at this point, that's like too cliche even for me. Like she's like the Williamsburg hipster pick. I'm going for like the West Bushwick hipster picks here.
She's just like the Maddie.
For the
Keir,
two
like,
of you who
is
get
it
that
gonna happen?
reference, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the podcast.
That's the podcast today. Thanks for
folks.
Northam Basketball, your first listen every day. Join the team at the next back next week for continued coverage of women's college basketball, the W. Make your second listen Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Have a great rest of your weekend, everyone.